If you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Let me explain. Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. And best of all, Anchor is totally free. Now go download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. And now back to Girl Down Podcast with me, Aeon. You're listening to a new episode of Girl Down Podcast with your host, me, Aeon. So sit back, relax, and listen as I unpack the uncertainty of my 30s, one episode at a time. Hey everybody, welcome to a new episode of Girl Down Podcast with me, your host Aeon. Before we get into this topic, I want to thank you all for listening to this podcast. I debuted the first 5 episodes up and wanted to leave them up for a little bit, just so y'all could get a little flavor of how I'm doing things over here. So far, the reception has been positive. You all are listening to the episode, and I am ready to just get back in the swing of things and give you all some new topics. But I'm just so grateful for the support because, like I said in the first episode, I was really nervous about the reception, and I know you all are used to hearing me one type of way, but y'all have really showed up and showed out. So let's continue to move forward. And I just thank you so much. And also, just as a reminder, make sure that you are rating and reviewing this podcast. Make sure you are telling a friend about it, getting the word out there, and so we can build the numbers up here on this podcast. So I want to talk about negotiating, the risk of negotiating safer sex. So by the time this episode comes out, a news story that people were talking about and probably have forgotten about now is the drama between DaBaby and DaniLightSkin, his baby mama. So last Monday, I'm recording this on Sunday, but earlier this past week, there was a big social media melee because DaBaby went live, basically, in a nutshell, kicking DaniLightSkin out of his condo. Everybody knows they just had a baby. The baby is 3 months old. Also, DaniLightSkin. I keep calling DaniLightSkin because earlier at the top of 2021, it was this controversy where she was accused of colorism because she released a song called Yellow Bone, saying that, basically insinuating that DaBaby preferred her over his other baby mothers because they're dark skinned and she's light skinned. And also, DaniLay isn't a black woman, or in the past hasn't identified as a black woman. So the whole situation is just a mess. And I'm sure by now other sources and other sites have reported on the specifics of the story. But I just want to jump to this point. I kind of feel like people have glossed over this particular aspect of the story, and I think there is room for a larger conversation when it comes to negotiating safer sex. So apparently what made the whole thing pop off between the baby and DaniLightSkin is that she had PlanB delivered to his house because I'm assuming that they were continuing to have sex after the baby was born, and the baby wanted to have sex with her, no condoms, and busting her, and she didn't want to get pregnant again, which I believe that it's her right, it's her body. it's her right if she doesn't want to have a baby again. And we live in a time where we have access to this type of medication, the PlanB pill. And for those of you who don't know, PlanB pill, from what I remember, it came out a couple of years ago over counter, but basically it's a pill for people assigned female at birth in the event that they have unprotected sex, or if the condom comes out or anything, they can take the pill. I think the window is within like a 48-hour window of having the unprotected sex, and it prevents all pregnancies. And with I remember PlanB was out before I even went to law school, because I used to work at Walgreens, and I remember when it first came out and we were putting it on the shows, and I was working in this upscale white suburb of Baltimore, and them little kids was coming in there buying them PlanBs like hotcakes. But it's been out for a few years now, but I think it's so great that we have this type of medication. And even the conversation that I was having about PEP and PrEP, like, for those of us that are out here having sex, which is intentionally condomless, or shit happens. Excuse me. Shit happens, but we have these amazing tools out here for people to have more agency over their bodies, and it's a good thing. And DaniLay, in the situation that she's in with DaBaby, was trying to exert some type of autonomy over her body. And the thing that was the most disgusting to me, over the fact that he is calling this lady all types of bitches, the fact that he's putting this lady who just had a newborn child, kicking them out with no regard for where they're going to stay at, the fact that he's putting his own child out without having no regard where the child is going to stay at. The thing that is insidious, and the thing that just is just like, ooh, niggas, is the fact that is this overreaction to the thought that DaniLay is exerting autonomy over her body in this type of way because she doesn't want to have kids. Because I'm probably sure that she sees the situation that she's in with the baby that she has now, and she doesn't want to get stuck, or she doesn't want to get trapped, or she probably just sees the lack of care that this man has for her throughout the pregnancy, now, definitely this situation. And although I'm not AFAB, I'm not assigned female at birth, and I don't have the experience of having children or carrying or conceiving children, I definitely can relate to the situation as somebody that, particularly as somebody who is the receptive partner in sexual situations, or can be the receptive partner when you try to negotiate safer sex, trying to negotiate condoms with men, trying to trying to get your sexual partner to be more invested in your safety, and just the overreaction and sometimes violence to men, thinking that just because they have sex with you, they have access to your body. Access meaning not using protection. Just thinking that anything goes because we are having sex. And again, it makes me aware of the similarities between trans women, between cis women, between all femmes, and how we're not encouraged to have power in the bedroom, and how we're just supposed to lay down, and we're just supposed to take it, and we're just supposed to suffer through the consequences that are real, and consequences that can happen. And I hope that this conversation, and I'm pretty sure other conversations that will come, will encourage us to really unpack these type of conversations, these type of because I remember when I used to work in HIV prevention, and we would try to teach people about condom negotiating skills, and all of these things that are tools to like reduce the HIV transmission rate, which I think are valid things. But I remember even 10 years ago when we were having these conversations, that I don't think much effort was put into really discussing the realities of the relationship dynamics and how there's an imbalance when it comes to negotiating safer sex. And you can have all the knowledge and education in the world, but if you have a partner that's going to overreact to you in a violent way, whether it be physical or verbal, um, nothing can really save you from that. And I think if I had one message that I want people to leave this conversation with, other than that this is absurd that this man had this type of reaction, it just the total lack of care that he had for her body, that he had for his own body. It should be a sign for everybody when we're picking partners. I want sexual partners that are invested in my health and invested in my well being, and in a partner that's invested in respecting my boundaries. And the first time I get a red flag that my boundaries aren't being respected or they're being challenged, bitch, I'm running for the motherfucking hills, because at this point in my life, it's just no negotiations. It's no negotiations for me. No dick, no sexual experience is worth me compromising the things that I've worked hard to define for myself as a grown adult black trans woman that's 32. But I understand that it's all a journey, and I understand that everybody is on different journeys, and I'm not judging people because it's hard. It's hard trying to negotiate these situations when these things are happening in real time. But I believe that I just want people just to walk away from this conversation having a feeling empowered to have a greater sense of autonomy in the bedroom. Because I feel like for those of us who are on the receptive end, and this means femmes of all forms, I really feel like we often get the short end of the stick when it comes to sexual situations. And I just want us to be more aware of those red flags or those signs when you're trying to take measures to proactively protect yourself, when you're trying to proactively center your pleasure, center your autonomy, and when you have partners that don't respect your boundaries and that they overreact in these ways, that it is violence. It is violence. It is unacceptable. And I know, going back to DaniLightSkin, even though I personally feel how I feel about her because of her colorism thing and the things that she has said and done to actual black women, I can still relate to her, and I can still see when a situation is violent, and I can see the bigger picture behind the situation. So I just want all of us to know that negotiating sex, it's not easy. It's not easy, but it's necessary. And if you don't feel comfortable, if you don't feel safe, if you're being challenged about something that should be centered, which is your sexual health, your sexual safety, all of those things, I would think twice. This is not somebody that I would be sharing my body with, or giving my body to in any way. That goes from a casual hookup to somebody that is supposed to be a long-term romantic partner. So I just wanted to highlight that part of the story because it's something that is alarming to me, and it's something that's more rampant than we like to acknowledge. But I think it's worth acknowledging because I think we all deserve the right to have control of our bodies, in the bedroom, out of the bedroom, and to have our boundaries respected. At the very least, if DaBaby felt some type of way about her being on PlanB, he could have simply ended the relationship. He didn't have to do this spectacle of putting her on blast and calling her a side piece. Just because somebody has a plan B, just because somebody's on prep or pep, does not mean that they're sexually promiscuous. That's not an excuse to try to slut shame somebody because they're trying to prioritize their health and trying to prioritize their safety. So that's all I have to say on this. Again, I thank you all so much for supporting me, and look out for the next episode. All right, bye. Thank you for listening to another episode of Girl Down Podcast with me, Aeon. If you like the show, please be sure to go on over to Apple Podcasts and rate and review this podcast. Also, make sure that you're engaging with me on social media. Also, if you have any inquiries or you want to send me any questions, be sure to email me at girldownpodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, bye y'all.